Hello all, Mance here, and I want to talk to you about a project that I'm particularly excited about. I've been working on this for a while now. This is a group TeleBuild, right? And what I mean by a TeleBuild is that all of the people involved in this project are not in the same physical location. This is an online type of project. And so what I've done is I've drawn up a replica of a lightsaber in SketchUp and made 3D printable files that I've since uploaded to Thingiverse, link in the description below. And with the idea being that anybody who has a 3D printer or has access to a 3D printer can download these files, have them printed, and then follow this series of videos that I'm planning on making in order to make their own high quality display piece or cosplay piece or whatever you might want to do with this lightsaber. Now, the particular lightsaber that I've chosen to replicate is known amongst fans as the Shared Stunt. It actually has its origins dating back to the production of A New Hope. They made the hero props, which are the pretty ones that are used for close-ups. They made a hero prop for Obi-Wan Kenobi's lightsaber. But they also made stunt versions of these sabers that they used for the dueling scenes. Anytime that there's a blade sticking out of it, it's one of these stunt sabers. They made a couple of them. And as time went by, they were used for different things. The V2, as people know, actually ended up being repurposed as Luke Skywalker's main belt hanger in Return of the Jedi. The Shared Stunt, however, after A New Hope wrapped up, was used as a practice saber. You can actually find pictures from behind the scenes of The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi where they're using this saber to practice, the fight scenes. After Return of the Jedi wrapped up, this saber was then prettied up. They slapped some paint on it and a couple other little things to make it look nice, and it was repurposed as an exhibition saber. And so it could be seen at the Magic of the Myth exhibition, amongst others, and NASA actually took this lightsaber into space on the space shuttle. This was also used as the reference for a lot of the Luke Skywalker lightsaber merchandise that came out in the 90s. So if you're a 90s kid like I am, you were kind of brought up to believe that this lightsaber that we now know was a stunt saber, not a hero saber. We were kind of under the impression that this was Luke's lightsaber, so it holds a special place in my heart. So what I've done is I've taken a Graflex clamp, lots of pictures, and I actually have a replica of the V2, which the V2 and the Shared Stunt have the same origin. They came from the same wooden master that was then cast in aluminum and painted up to use for the stunt sabers. So I have a replica of the V2 and a Graflex clamp and lots of photo reference, and I've drawn up, what I hope is a pretty accurate rendition of the Shared Stunt. So without further ado, let's get to printing these parts. The printer I'm using on this particular project is the MP Select Mini, which I picked up on monoprice.com for about $200 American. It's a cute little printer with a 12 centimeter cube build area, and it's got a heated build plate, and it's really quite easy to use. I'm printing with PLA here, and I'm using Cura as my slicing software. So I've got my print speed set to between 50 and 60 millimeters a second, depending on the piece. The print temperature I've got set to 200 degrees, and the bed temperature I've got set to 50 degrees. The shell thickness on each piece is set to 0.8 millimeters, and since the nozzle on this printer is 0.4 millimeters, that means it does 2 passes around for the outside shell, and I have the outermost pass going at a slower speed of 20 millimeters a second, which I found greatly improves the print fidelity. For adhesion, I'm using blue tape, as you can see, and on top of the blue tape, I've actually put down some Elmer's glue stick too. And I've also used brims on most of these pieces because I figure you can't be too safe when it comes to adhesion. The only time I really used any support material were for the concave areas underneath the booster, inside the emitter, and in the female parts of the twist locks. But I tried to keep the support minimal because, you want to keep the cleanup as easy as possible. So here I am digging out the support material with a flathead screwdriver, and I found that, that's about the best tool for the job. You can pick out the pieces, and then any little stubborn bits you can simply chisel away. Alright, so here are all the parts printed out. Starting from the bottom of the lightsaber up, we've got the pommel, the booster section, the clamp spacer, then we've got the grenade, the bottom of the windvane, the top of the windvane, the emitter and the rod. Now these two were actually separate pieces, but when I was testing it, it was just a little bit snug and I couldn't get the rod all the way out, so I actually ended up just taking a rubber mallet and kind of hammering it all the way back in there. I know of at least one individual on the forum that printed his parts in ABS plastic, and he was saying that the rod and the emitter, there was actually a little bit of play. So, you know, depending on what material you're printing with or what your print settings might be, you might run into different results. But it fits pretty snugly, and it's perfect as it is. I wouldn't change a thing. But then on top of the emitter, we also have the fender washer. Now, people have asked, why did I make these two separate parts? Well, on the original prop, this was actually a fender washer. So if you wanted to, you could go to the hardware store and find a washer the right size and use that on your replica instead. You make it, you know, just a degree more authentic. So let's assemble these pieces just kind of roughly. We'll start with the pommel and the booster, and they'll fit in like that. For right now, they just kind of pressure fit, but eventually there will be a set screw that holds these two pieces together. Then we've got the twist lock that goes into the clamp section. You just insert it and twist it like that, and it holds it pretty well in place. Now the twist lock mechanism is nice because it allows you to line up these pieces perfectly. There's no guesswork as to where the center is. You can also make your lightsaber field strippable if you want to. I plan on actually gluing most of these pieces together. Pretty much anything that isn't held in place with a set screw will be held with, will be affixed with glue. Alright, so let me just back up. So then I've got the windvane bottom, which fits into the grenade section here. Then the windvane top, there's actually no physical lock or anything. It'll eventually be glued. I printed these pieces separately for the fidelity. Ideally, it would be just one piece, but then there's this overhang here that I couldn't get to turn out with my printer. Maybe if you're using a really nice printer, you would have better results, but not everybody's got a really nice printer. I'm kind of, no offense, but I'm aiming for the lowest common denominator here. So eventually, we'll be gluing these pieces together and doing some finishing work to make it look like one piece. But for now, they're separate. And it's just kind of sandwiched in place by the rod and the emitter. Right? And that fits down into that hole. And then finally we'll glue the washer on top. So that's the rough assembly of the saber. Join us in part 2 when we start to finish this guy.